Hello students, welcome you all in history class. Now we are discussing chapter 2 Socialism in Europe and the Russian Revolution. On the previous video we have already discussed about what is socialism, industrial revolution, the coming of socialism to Europe. Today we will start our discussion from the next point, that is support for socialism. So open your book, page number 29. Let's start the chapter Support for Socialism. By the 1870s, socialist ideas spread through Europe. To coordinate their effort, socialists formed an international body, namely the Second International. So socialists form an international body named Second International. Workers in England and Germany began forming associations to fight for better living and working conditions. They set up funds to help members in times of distress and demanded a reduction of working hours and the right to vote. Now, workers in England and Germany began forming associations. What's the reason behind the forming association? To fight for better living and working condition. So they set up funds to help members in time of distress and demanding a reduction of working hours and right to vote. In Germany, this association worked closely with the Social Democratic Party (SPD) and helped it win parliamentary seat. By 1905, socialists and trade unions formed a Labour Party in Britain and a Socialist Party in France. So, in Germany, working people, working class formed a party with the help of Social Democratic Party. Okay, and in 1905, in Britain, a Labour Party was formed, and in France, Socialist Party was formed. However, in 1914, socialists never succeeded in forming a government in Europe. Represented by strong figures in parliamentary politics, their ideas did shape legislation, but governments continued to be run by conservative, liberals and radicals. So, still 1914, socialists never succeeded forming a government in Europe. Government continued to run by conservative, liberals and radicals. Now, next page. Page number 30. Open page number 30. The Russian Revolution. Let's start the Russian Revolution. So we have finished discussing about socialism. What is socialism? Liberals, radicals, conservatives, idea of them, their ideology, how socialism came into Europe, and now we will discuss about the Russian Revolution. In one of the least industrialized of European states, this situation was reversed. Socialists took over the government in Russia through the October Revolution of 1917. So, the fall of monarchy in February 1917 and the events of October are normally called the Russian Revolution. So, what is Russian Revolution? The fall of monarchy in February 1917 and the events of October are normally called the Russian Revolution. Okay. Now next, how did this came about? What were the social and political condition in Russia when the revolution occurred? To answer this question, let us look at Russia a few years before the revolution. A few years before the revolution, we will start from year 1914. Okay. Our next point is the Russian Empire in 1914. Let's start. See, this is the map. This is Russian Empire. Okay. In 1914. In 1914, Tsar Nicholas II ruled Russia and its empire. Besides the territory around Moscow, the Russian Empire included current-day Finland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, parts of Poland, Ukraine and Belarus. It stretched to the Pacific and comprised today's Central Asian states as well as Georgia, Armenia and Azerbaijan. The majority religion was Russian Orthodox Christianity. This is very important. Remember, the majority religion was Russian Orthodox Christianity, which had grown out of the Greek Orthodox Christianity. But the empire also included Catholic, Protestant, Muslims and Buddhist. Okay, so this is a small description about the Russian Empire of 1914. At the beginning of the 20th century, the vast majority of Russian people were agriculturists. So, at the beginning of the 20th century, the vast majority of Russia's people were agriculturists. About 85% of the Russian Empire's population earned their living from agriculture. This proportion was higher than in most European countries. For instance, in France and Germany, the proportion was between 40% and 50%. So, the proportion in Russia, that is 85%, if we compare this with other European countries like Germany and France, this proportion is higher. Because in France, it's 40%, in Germany, it's 50%, but in Russia, it's 85%. In the empire, cultivators produced for the market as well as for their own needs, and Russia was a major exporter of grains. Obviously, 85% is there. So that's why Russia was the major exporter of grains. Now next, we will discuss about industry. Industry was found in pockets. It means very less. Prominent industrial areas were St. Petersburg and Moscow. Craftsmen undertook much of the production, but large factories existed alongside craft workshops. Many factories were set up in the 1890s when Russia's railway network was extended. The foreign investment in industry increased. The coal production doubled and the iron and steel output quadrupled. By the 90s, in some areas, factory workers and craftsmen were almost equal in number. Okay, so remember industrial revolution of Europe? What happened then? In industrial revolution, new industries set up, right? New factories set up. Here in Russia, industrial revolution began in 1890s. Many factories were set up. Russian railway network was extended and foreign investment in industry increased. So industrial revolution started in Russia. And what is the result of that? Coal production doubled and iron and steel output quadrupled. By the 90s, in some areas, factory workers and craftsmen were almost equal in number. Okay. Now next, most industry was the private property of industrialists. Obviously, quite natural. Most industry was the private property of industrialists. Government supervised large factories to ensure minimum wages and limited hour of work. But factory inspector could not prevent rules being broken. In craft units and small workshops, the working day was sometimes 15 hours compared with 10 or 12 hours in factories. Accommodation varied from rooms to dormitories. So now it's the effect of industrialization. First of all, industrialization first effect, that is low wages and long working hours. But here in Russia, quite a different picture is there, because here in Russia, government supervised large factories to ensure minimum wages and limited working hours. But some factory inspectors were there and they couldn't prevent rules being broken. So rules were not followed by the factory owners. Okay. In craft unit and small workshop, the working day was sometimes 15 hours compared with 10 or 12 hours in factories. Accommodation varied from rooms to dormitories. Dormitories means this is, see the picture, it's in your book, this one. It's dormitories. It's the picture of dormitories. Beds were there, only beds, only for sleeping. Okay, accommodation of 50 to 60, sometimes 100 workers together. Okay, this is the picture of dormitories, and see the picture of their dinner or lunch. They eating in charitable kitchen and living in poor houses. This is the condition of the workers. Okay. Now, next paragraph. Workers were a divided social group. Some had strong links with the villages from which they came. Others had settled in cities permanently. Workers were divided by skill. So, in society, we can see that workers were divided in social groups. Some had strong links with the villages and others had settled in cities permanently. Workers were divided by their skill. A metal worker of St. Petersburg recalled, metal workers considered themselves aristocrat among other workers. So, metal workers considered themselves aristocrat among other workers. Other workers means other industry workers, textile industry like that. Their occupation demanded more training and skill. Why? The reason is their occupation demanded more training and skill. women made up 31% of the factory labor force by 1914, but they were paid less than men, between half and three quarters of a man's wage. So here it's a information about the women, the scenario of the women at that time in Russian society. Women made up 31% of the factory labor. So 31% of the factory labor was women, but they were paid less than men. How much? Half or three quarter of man's wage. Divisions among workers showed themselves in dress and manners too. Some workers formed associations to help members in times of unemployment or financial hardship, but such associations were few. So, some members, some workers were sometimes they were united. Okay, they formed association to help members in time of unemployment and financial hardship. Despite divisions, workers did unite to strike work. Strike work means stop work. When they disagree with employers about dismissal or work conditions. So, despite divisions, yes, divisions is there about the quality of the work, about the wages or on the basis of training, skill, divisions were there. But despite of divisions, workers did united to strike work, I mean stop work, when they disagree with employers about dismissals or work conditions. These strikes took place frequently in the textile industry during 1896 to 1897 and in the metal industry during 1902. So many strikes took place in the textile industry during 1896 to 1897 and in the metal industry during 1902. Okay. Now, the next paragraph. Now, our next point is, next paragraph. In the countryside, peasants cultivated most of the land, but the nobility, the crown, and the Orthodox Church owned large properties. Like workers, peasants too were divided. They were also deeply religious. So peasants were also deeply religious. But except in a few cases, they had no respect for the nobility. Nobles got their power and position through their services to the Tsar, not through local popularity. So nobles got their position through their services to the Tsar, not through local popularity. This was unlike France, where during the French Revolution in Brittany, peasants respected nobles and fought for them. But the scenario in France was different, right? We saw that in French Revolution, the scenario was different. There, peasants respect the nobles and fought for them. But in Russia, the scenario was different. Here in Russia, peasants had no respect for the nobility. In Russia, peasants wanted the land of the nobles to be given to them. Frequently, they refused to pay rent and even murdered landlords. So, in Russia, the situation is different. In Russia, peasants wanted the land of the nobles to be given to them. So they refused to pay the rent of that land. And sometimes they even murdered the landlords, the nobles. Okay. In 1902, this occurred on a large scale in South Russia. and in 1905 such incidents took place all over Russia. So in 1905 such incidents took place all over Russia. Russian pigeons were different from other European pigeons in another way. They pulled their land together periodically and their commune, in Russian language mir, divided it according to the needs of individual families. So here we see that Russian pigeons were different from other European pigeons. How? They pulled their land together periodically and they divided it according to the needs of the individual families. Okay, so we can say that they were naturally socialist, right? Now our next point, socialism in Russia. We will discuss this point, socialism in Russia, in our next video. That's all for today, students. Bye.